So I thought I'd go ahead and do a video kind of like conference report where I'm walking, get in a different mode. I think on this one I want to mention the radical difference that everybody's environment, everybody's life shares. I don't believe there's anybody out there that can and will entirely agree with me, and I don't believe there's any other mind that I could entirely agree with. With that being said, I think that it's difference in opinions, it's difference in outlook. For example, some people are going to come on here and they're going to take the Heidegger definition of what an animal is, right? The living. Right. Now, if you take William Burroughs is going to make a huge distinction between different types of animals. For example, a dog is a hound from hell, and a deer is green, that he cannot possibly empathize with the deer's mind because the deer's mind is too green. Now, he also did Autobiography of a Wolf, which I thought was very interesting, and you'll get different people coming up with different conversations about, oh boy, how to put it, like what it means to extend one's narrative to describe kind of a hermeneutics, a bonding with that which communicates with another. And so to get an author that is serious about talking about an autobiography of a wolf is obviously identified himself with a certain characteristic. And this, a lot of things concerning identity and characterization are very interesting. How one sees themselves, how one lives in their waking life, how one structures their life. Some people don't have an inner monologue. I do not any longer have an inner monologue. The inner monologue is what ties individuals to their characterization of themselves. And I think that this is what allows individuals to identify. This is what allows individuals to think that somehow their dreams, their falling out of themselves and entering themselves, is not something that's also done when one is awake. It's just that one's bound to their egotism of their own self-reflexive belt of monologue. And so I guess when I was starting this video, I wanted to kind of tie it into the other two, that there's radical difference amongst lives. There are grand competing hierarchies that are competing for your agreement in lexicon. They're competing for your inclusion. You're already included in a language or languages, and these languages have central themas and central ways about them, a culturalism. Some people see a monism happening in the world, and other people are, I don't know how to put it. They want multiculturalism. They see monism as a threat, an inevitability. These, this is where we get into people that are warring, the New World Order, and yet it almost seems as if technology and communication and the desire to group and understand is forcing a loss of difference. And then you get people that, because in the face of this, in this brave new world, they want to see themselves as always a part of, instead of looking at the radical difference that is me, the way I speak, the way I've interacted, and anybody else, absolutely anybody else on the planet. Instead of noting the difference, people are noting the symptoms of that difference. They're calling it modern capitalism. They're calling it, they're seeing the pathologic approach towards what it means to fall into a culture of difference. And then, so what they're doing is they're regressing, and they're basing their paradigm then centers itself around commonality, what is common, and they start to slide away from difference. Granted, there's problems. There's problems with one, and there's problems with both. And it's interesting here because people are passing off themselves as part of a worldwide commonality. There's ironies. As much as someone wants to bring us in common, they're going to find difference. As much as people want to find difference, they have to find commonality. This is kind of the Mobius strip. And it's ironic, to say the least. Well, I'm at my micro destination. I'll be back in a minute. So, some people consider life a gift. Oh, it is a gift. Other people consider their life as a fact. Some people are caught up within the analysis in their heads. Other people they're more lackadaisical. They're more carefree. Some people don't consider their life, so they don't give it a title. They just more point to other type of descriptors, other definitions. So there's a vocabulary from those who consider themselves spiritually enlightened and want to see themselves as common, as referencing their life as a gift. Now, I think that these people have, they've raised their chakras. They see where they come from. They see a grand thing, and they see themselves a part of it. And they feel happy, they feel blessed, they feel complete. And yet they note the opposite. They just don't want to identify with the opposite. But why don't they want to identify with it? There's this notion of cohesion. In order to get anything done, you have to have some sort of cohesion. You have to be able to speak, right? So, one thing I wanted to mention was that in terms of being able to speak, that human interaction and communication, although very detailed, sophisticated, that human language may not have become separate from animal communication or considered higher than. Until there was writing, until there was a glyph, until there was something that was carved in the snow itself, or in a ground itself, or something that I could say, this guy here, both of them, those two things, some conveyance that is scripted, scratched outwardly, and that people agreed upon the scratch. Kind of like seeing tracks in the snow tell something, but to then come out and draw a track in the snow, it's like in order to fulfill a language, whether or not we call it literacy based on writing or the process of writing, humans have been able to scratch things in stone, rock, dirt, etc., organize things, and put language outwardly from themselves in order to speak about what it is to be inside themselves, in order to have a community of agreement, or this notion of the inner subjective. To become spiritual at all, one almost had to scratch something down first. That's what I think. So in terms of deconstruction, whether or not speaking or writing became first, different than the birds in the air and such, tweeting back and forth at one another, communicating. We don't say they have a language or bird language, although we could. This is more like saying, in order for humans to separate themselves, they made marks